Welcome, and elaborate on this.
So the one thing we fear is an error, either fiscal or monetary policy. That is the tried and true way to kill off a bull market. So we are absolutely bullish, but you have to realize there are a lot of levers being pulled very, very quickly in the government right now. And some of those effects are going to have a lag. So we are just a little bit wary of how that's going to then affect what the Fed's going to do and vice versa, because you're seeing a lot of change very, very quickly, which can be a little unsettling to the markets. You know, CEOs are getting a bit of whiplash trying to keep up with where they need to be right now. So for us, bullish, we're really happy. We're in earnings season. We're back to fundamentals. It's all about earnings and earnings growth, and it's been great. Next week really is the heart of it, because on Wednesday we get the 3 of the 7 reporting, and those are going to be huge with Meta and Microsoft and Tesla. So we've added about almost 4.5–5% the last 2 weeks. I see that trend continuing, but we've got to have those 3 deliver on Wednesday. Absolutely.
Yeah, and to be clear, you're not worried that that's going to trip up the market. And I'm with you, by the way. Netflix needs to go back in the Mag 7, and we can call it the Elite 8. That's a great term.
Yeah. I like Elite 8, the Great 8, but it outperformed everybody except NVIDIA last year, and I don't know why more people aren't talking about this company. I've loved it for 2 years, and they smashed expectations, but it's not just about ads. It's about continuing to add 19 million subscribers. It's about continuing to delve into live sporting events, and they've talked about they're not trying to replicate live TV. They want special events. They want playoff games or Christmas Day games. They don't want to be your everyday TV. They want you to come to Netflix because they have the best content, and the one thing I love as an investor is their margins continue to improve. They're controlling their content costs, and they still have some of the top-ranked shows, like Squid Games 2, one of the best releases they ever have. And you haven't watched season 2 of The Diplomat, it's fantastic.
We're going to talk even more about this later on, because it's really one of the biggest stories of the market so far this year. But let's go back to politics. In a way, next week gives us a reprieve from just following those political developments, because we're reminded of the incredible earnings power of some of these companies. But we are now getting into the harder work, where we have the debt ceiling that we've already hit, a government shutdown coming in March. Feb 1 could be a Canada-Mexico tariff issue. The TikTok thing is still up in the air. And a lot of these are political battles that we're going to get different kinds of headlines on. And ultimately, figuring out the bills that are going to pass is going to be very complex.
Hugely complex. And our big thing is take a deep breath and step back, because news has been flowing fast and furious this first week. I think he set a record for executive orders written. And for us, number one is Congress is going to have to get to work. We did not solve any systemic problems in November. We still have the debt ceiling. We still have a massive deficit. We still have spending problems. You know, some of the things he talked about with we're going to have this infrastructure initiative. Okay, how are we going to pay for that? And so some of this hard work begins again of how do we find this balance? We all are expecting tax cuts. That's got to be a priority for this administration. Lower regulations do seem to be coming. You know, some of this stuff, though, it's funny because it's so many catalysts, but look at the energy sector. On one hand, love lower regulation, LNG exporting and permitting opening back up. But on the flip side, oh, hey, Saudi Arabia, please pump more oil and lower oil prices, which isn't necessarily great for U.S. energy companies to have lower realized oil prices. So it's not all going to be bullish. There's going to be push-pull of catalysts and risks. And I also just say take a step back. There is a limit to executive orders, and we're going to have to see Congress actually come in to govern with a very thin margin, which has proved extremely difficult to do.
Right.